A third convoy of vehicles has entered Gaza carrying much-needed supplies of food, water and medical equipment to civilians stuck in the Palestinian enclave. The latest fleet adds to the previous total of 34 trucks that passed through the Rafah crossing over the weekend. But international humanitarian groups and global leaders say that much more aid is needed and fast. Dwindling power supply is placing hundreds of patients at risk of imminent death. The UN agency warns that Gaza needs fuel as urgently as water and food, and that without it, humanitarian work cannot be carried out. Well, leaders are calling for Israel to adhere to international law. European Union top diplomat Josep Borrell has urged for a humanitarian pause as EU leaders gather in Luxembourg to discuss getting that critical aid into Gaza.
We, European Union, we have increased our support, but there are queues and queues of trucks waiting to enter. They have to enter, and they have to bring things that badly needed. In particular, the fuel needed to make, I repeat, the desalination work. Then we have to discuss about the political process.
The Israeli military has been mounting limited raids into Gaza. It claims to have struck hundreds of targets across the enclave in the past 24 hours, including a tunnel housing Hamas fighters. The Palestinian group says that its fighters engaged with Israeli forces infiltrating Gaza and destroyed their enemies' military equipment. Palestinian health officials say about 400 people were killed in the Israeli air attacks on Gaza in the past 24 hours, bringing the total death toll to more than 5,000 since the violence began at the start of this month. Now, all this comes as the enclave braces for a possible ground invasion, but that could be delayed even further. According to a New York Times article citing US officials, the Biden administration is advising Israel to delay its invasion in an attempt to buy more time for hostage negotiations. More than 200 people are still being held captive by Hamas. Washington is also reportedly seeking more time to prepare for possible attacks from Iran-backed groups. Mr. Biden earlier spoke with leaders of the Western allies, including France and the United Kingdom, to ramp up diplomatic coordination and prevent the conflict from spreading. For more, Ross Cullen joins us. He's live for us in Tel Aviv. Ross, there are reports of the United States advising Israel to hold off its ground operation in Gaza, perhaps to buy more time for the hostages that were taken by Hamas. What else do we know about this delay?
Well, the United States and Israel are discussing things on a range of issues. We know that Joe Biden is having talks with Benjamin Netanyahu on a regular basis. They're looking at the humanitarian crisis and the aid convoys. They're discussing possible hostage release, negotiating over the position of those captives inside the Gaza Strip. They are also discussing this widely anticipated ground incursion by Israeli forces. Now, we know that Israel has been keeping allies up to date, informing Rishi Sunak when the British Prime Minister came here. He'll be informing Emmanuel Macron when he comes here on Tuesday. And there was in-person discussions with the US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and also in-person discussions, notably with Joe Biden when he came here to try to update these allies on plans and objectives related to that highly anticipated ground invasion, which Israel says could well be necessary to try to finish off its war against Hamas. It wants to completely destroy and crush Hamas, and it's doing so at the moment, fulfilling its aims with airstrikes, trying to continue that bombing campaign, which began in retaliation after the atrocities carried out here by Hamas inside Israel on the 7th of October. That bombing campaign, well over 2 weeks now, and they are continuing their airstrikes, but they do believe there could be necessary for infantry and tanks to be used to try to have that ground incursion. At the moment, when you have hostage negotiation going on, when you have trucks of aid convoys driving around the Gaza Strip to try to distribute aid, likely now we have had several reports that the United States has informed Israel, has advised Israel that it would be ideal to delay, put off that ground offensive for the time being to try to allow some of those other issues to play out and be resolved.
Another issue ongoing, Ross, we're hearing of an increasing number of attacks flaring at the Israel-Lebanon border. What's the latest on the battlefront?
Yeah, Dawn, that's right, that the United States also famously, Joe Biden saying don't in terms of his message to state actors or non-state actors who might be looking to take advantage of Israel at this moment. And one of those actors he's looking at is Iran, and a non-state actor is Hezbollah, based in southern Lebanon, has been firing mortars, rockets and anti-tank missiles into northern Israel. We do know that over the last 24 hours, one Hezbollah fighter has been killed. Some IDF service personnel have been wounded in the north. There have been evacuations going on of Israeli towns and villages in the northern part of the country, moving those people to safety as the attacks increase from Hezbollah. Israel has also been carrying out airstrikes inside southern Lebanon on Hezbollah positions, and earlier today intercepted an unknown missile object that had been fired into Israel's airspace from southern Lebanon. So the situation very tense around Gaza and that possible ground invasion of the Palestinian enclave and the ongoing airstrikes and bombing campaign in the south of the country, which is where the Hamas attacks took place more than 2 weeks ago, but also increasingly tense, Dawn, in the north of the country, and the whole situation with Hezbollah gaining ground in terms of its confidence and missile attacks and anti-tank missile attacks on northern Israel, and the Israeli Defense Forces at the moment also responding to those attacks with increasing reinforcements of troops in the north.
All right, Ross, thank you for that update. Ross Cullen there live for us in Tel Aviv.